Hi there, and welcome on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve, and I'll be your guide. Well, folks, I hope you're having a fantastic day and an even better week. In this video, folks, we're going to dive into a topic I'm sure will annoy you. Obviously, since it's probably already posted, you already know what it's going to be. We're going to talk a little bit about hate. Wow, the concept of hate. I don't know if I've ever seen anything on just hate, straight hate, right? We've heard about haters, right? And I suppose if you're going to have hate, you need haters to drive the hate, right? The hate train, the haterade, all the things, right? That people say. Hate. Wow, this is in all humanity going back to the beginning, right? You get the Cain and Abel story, it's like, well, hate in that scenario stemmed from what? Jealousy, right? Jealousy is a big driver of hate, right? If somebody's doing well and somebody's jealous of them, that might drive a hate, right? If somebody's doing okay and somebody else, has a streak of good fortune, then that can drive other people to be jealous, even if they aren't lacking, right? There can be a jealousy and a hate there. So jealousy is a massive one, right? I will say I guess it would probably be the 2010s, right? This whole notion of jealousy was a thing in my brain. It was one of those topics, one of those thoughts, that I had was what's the driver of jealousy, right? Obviously, you see that in a relational setting, in relationships and culture and different groups. You see it everywhere. You see it in organizations, right? You see someone that gets promoted, and then you'll see somebody who's they may not necessarily be jealous of them because of the promotion. They may just hate them, right? They may just straight up hate them because they don't like them. It may be a perception of somebody doesn't deserve something, right? Maybe there's the perception of a lack of justice that can fester within a human, right? Because I don't think anybody's running around saying, well, there's a lack of justice, I think you should be hating now. You don't see those signs going up anywhere. It just comes, I guess, sadly, it comes naturally to us if we let it, right? If we're not, if we don't see it, we don't feel the burbling, right? It may be somebody is saying something you don't align with, right? Where I might disagree, right? We may have disagreements. We're not aligned on these things, right? You can, you can always go another day. You can always forge bonds and unite over the course of time. It doesn't have to be in the now, but some people are impatient, and if they don't get what they want, right? There's that control freak part of this, right? Pearson's a control freak. When they don't get what they want when they want it, there could be that, that feeling of veracity, I guess you could say the ferociousness, right? That comes out in anger that can maybe become hate, right? Can fan the flames of hate. And you see where hate has done what? It never does anything good, right? Even if you've caught yourself being angry and to the point where you maybe felt like, you know what, I think I hate this person, right? And it's fair, folks. We're not shaming people for going through it. We have to feel our way through life, right? But what's the difference between feeling hatred, speaking toward others in a hateful way or about others in a hateful way, right? That's that hater thing, right? Or taking actions, right? Demonstrating hatred, right? Hate crimes, right? People acting out because of hate, right? An interesting thing to try to walk back, but, I suppose it can be done, right? It is done. But so hate, it's not an easy thing. This isn't one of those topics where it's just like, well, hey, hate, well, just, add 40 gallons of ice water and I don't think that would help the hate much. It might just make it worse. But have you ever had anybody who hated you, right? hated you because of a promotion, of a good fortune in your life, right? Maybe you have a good attitude, right? Or some people, they just hate people who are pretty centered, right? Their life could be difficult, up topsy turvy, but they've got a good attitude. Or some people just hate on people like that because they're like, oh, I just want to see them suffer. That might be a part of this too, right? There might be that perception of justice and people wanting to see other people suffer, and a hate. I mean, because if you want to see other people suffer, I'm pretty sure that falls into the hate category, right? So we have to walk these things back and ask ourselves, do people just wake up hating? I don't think so. It might have been that somebody stole your toy in the sandbox when you were a kid, or your lunch when you were a kid, or tripped you, or this thing and that thing when we were kids, right? All these things that happened in our formative years most of the time. Well, I hate this kind of dog. Well, why do you hate that kind of dog? Well, when I was a kid, a friend of mine was attacked by this dog. Okay, so every dog that is that breed now is, you hate that breed, right? Doesn't really make sense, right? Doesn't really. That really demonstrates the larger generalizations that people act on, right? This is where you get racism, sexism, all the isms, right? They all come from what? Overgeneralizing, right? So we have to be careful about these things, and you have to walk it back, because more than likely, if somebody hates you, they didn't just start out hating you, okay? It's like, oh, they were great, and then you came along and, oh, I hate you. Now, maybe you were just a convenient target. If you've got a good attitude, maybe you're a pleasant human being and you're a positive, hopeful human, right? And maybe they don't like that, right? They don't like that because I didn't have the opportunity to be a positive, hopeful human in my life. So I'm not going to allow anybody else to be that way either. And this is where you hear have you ever heard the term curmudgeon? Right? It's kind of a nice way to say a hater, right? But you get this kind of curmudgeonly effect from people who are just generally hateful toward everyone, right? They didn't, they've had issues. And now don't get me wrong, folks, there are folks who have gone through some stuff, right? But we have to remember, this doesn't give us license to impede on other people's lives, right? Now, you can't stop somebody from hating you, right? That's an internal process. Okay. That's an internal process that we each control, right? So if somebody hates you, that's internal to them. That's a them problem, not a you problem, okay? But if you hate somebody, well, that's now a you problem, right? So we all can only control ourselves. We can all only monitor and question and go, okay, is this legit? And hey, why do I feel this way? Now, it might be that hate is driven, from the extremes. Oh, this person, they hurt X amount of people back in the day, a criminal and all the things, right? All the ugly stuff that's happened in human history. And so there's a hate for that, for what that person represented, right? And there's the whole Hitler thing, right? There's the hate, right? There's a hate and all of that. Okay, well, that's a unique scenario. Now, it doesn't just happen every day. Not everybody walking around you is one of those, right? so we have to be cognizant, right, about these things. But you may have an iconic placeholder for hate, but we have to ask ourselves, in the end, they got to where they got because they hated. So if you hate them, now you're just one step closer to them, right? That doesn't mean you have to agree, doesn't mean you have to like, doesn't mean you have to condone or appreciate and all those things, right? It doesn't mean any of that. But this is really about hate within you, right? How do you tackle hate within you? It's a stone, right? Hate is a stone. And, if you want to swim across the waters of peace, and you've got a 300-pound hate stone around your neck, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it. Peace isn't going to be in the cards for you. Now, there are whole, swaths of people who have this stone, And their whole thought process is I'm going to see if I can get as many people to hate a person, a group, a this, a that, pick a number, right? And their whole movement is to stir up hate and division and divisiveness. And if they can stir up hate, division, and divisiveness, what happens next? Now everybody's drowning. Nobody has peace. Nobody is settled. Nobody, see how this goes? It just keeps getting worse. There's nothing ever gained. There's nothing ever grown. There's nothing elevated, right? There's no ascending life path here, right? You're not improving, on a daily basis to better your own world, obviously, and the world around you. That's just non-existent when your whole motive is hate, right? And especially if you're systematizing hate. Now you do that, and now, you got to deal with the law of physics, the law of physics. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that's not always a good thing, right? So how do we deal with that? Well, we got to curb hate within our own heart. That's ultimately what it is, right? What is the easiest way? If I'm just speaking from my own opinion here, my own experiences. Easiest way for me is to go back and just have some humility, right? And understand that I'm going to be able to do more, help more, elevate more, get more done, right? And be more productive. All things are going to be better if I can push that hate out. Because if you think of a balloon, okay, and think of there's a dark cloudy air in that balloon, and that's hate, right? It doesn't take up the whole balloon, but you can see it's morphing around. We'll say it's taking up half that space, maybe a little bit more, right? There's this hate. And this is built of all the negative experiences that have injected into this balloon of your life, right? And so now your life is not clear and crisp and clean and good, right? Now it's mucked up, right, with hate. Now imagine you hook that balloon up to essentially love, right? That's what we're talking about, really, ultimately. Some humility and love. Hook it up and push that love in there. The more love you push into that balloon, and it'll push that hate right out, okay? Because hate can't exist where love exists. They can't legitimately occupy the same space. Now, this is where you see a lot of, people, organizations, whatever you want to call it, trying to perpetuate as if they're loving, but there's really hate, right? It's that backhanded comment. It's the smart aleck remark, right? Oh, I'm a loving, happy, balanced human being. And there's a smart aleck remark. There's the bad attitude. That's where I'm going. Those aren't all indicative of pure hatred, but there's a modicum amount of hate in there, right? So keep that in mind. And so when you're thinking about yourself, go, wow, when I'm reflexing and saying these, harshly sarcastic things, we're not talking about humor that you and your buddy are, on board with. We're talking about harsh stuff, right? When that stuff comes out, it's coming from somewhere, right? It's part of that dark cloud that's floating around. Now, we can't have the expectation that other people are going to fly straight and level in life, right? If we've got a cloud floating around of even the modest amount of hate, but yet we're pointing our fingers saying, oh, these people are doing this and that person and these people and da, right? You're pointing all these fingers at, no, look in your own balloon. Look in your own balloon. You can only monitor, gauge, and handle the love that is inside of you. And pump it up, man. Like the old thing, like the old tennis shoe. Pump it up. Pump it up. Pump up that balloon of your life with love. Pump it up, and it'll push that hate out. That's the easiest way to do it. There's no room for hate inside a person who has love inside of them, to a great degree. Okay? So on that note, let's just call that the, foot stomp, right? There's no space in your life for hate if love is taking up most of that space. And if you think about it that way, it's easier to digest. Now it's not so personal, right? Remember, it's about keeping your own life fresh, right? So don't let hate infect you, okay? All right, folks, hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, hit that good green domino 3 to 5 times a day or more to uplift, motivate, inspire, and just encourage one another. When you do this, not only are you helping to transform culture, but you're transforming your own life. But remember, we can't transform anything on the outside if we're not willing to transform on the inside. Super important. All right, folks, have a fantastic day. Hit like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.